Welcome back, Your Excellency. In this lesson, we're going to learn Excel's fairly new and very powerful XLOOKUP function. And to give us some context, we're going to begin building a prototype point-of-sale system. Now, if you work with our IS textbook, we discuss point-of-sale systems in our Zara chapter. Now, here's a look at what we'll be building over the next two video lessons. And while this is just a prototype and it isn't meant to be a full-blown point-of-sale system that'll deduct sales from inventory stock, we will build up an order based on part numbers that the user can enter, and then we'll use XLOOKUP to find those part numbers in a parts list, and we'll automatically show the correct product description and price. We'll also use XLOOKUP to calculate discounts based on a discount table, and I'm also showing you what we'll cover in the next video, including drop-down lists, data validation, and we'll create a protected worksheet where the user can only modify certain values. Now, in this scenario, we'll pretend we're creating a point-of-sale system for a vendor of maker products that sells all sorts of nerdy goodness, like Bluetooth control ties, robot kits, and LED signs. By the way, these are all actual geektacular projects that I've built, and if you want to build one of your own, you can find tutorials on my YouTube channel. But now isn't maker time, now is Excel time, so let's soup up those spreadsheets. Let's begin by downloading a starter file. As usual, we'll find it at bit.ly/excel-starter-files, all one word, and you can download the file called Cash Register Starter File. Right-click on that, select Download. I'm going to download mine to the desktop, and then open it in Excel. And I'm going to use Save As to save a version of this file called Point of Sale Lesson. Now, our point of sale system will look up part numbers in a list of items that we have for sale and display the description and price for each item. And we'll perform this lookup using the XLOOKUP function. This is a fairly new function that Microsoft introduced in Excel 365 to replace older and less flexible functions like VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. Now, the XLOOKUP function will look up a given value in a list known as a lookup array, and if it finds a match in the lookup array, it'll look to see which item is in the same position in a matching return array, and it will return that value. So there are three required inputs or parameters for this function. A lookup value, in the example on this slide, we'll assume it's the value that we get from cell A5, so that would be WJ001. We have a lookup array. XLOOKUP will try to find the lookup value in the lookup array. Here the lookup array is this range under part number in column G. It's highlighted in red. And our return array. In our example, that would be this array highlighted in purple in the H column. Now, if XLOOKUP were to run in this example, it would find the lookup value WJ001 in the G column, and it would return coin cell pennant because that's in a matching position, third element from the top, in the return array. Now, there are also some optional values. If not found is used if we can't find a match. There are also various match modes, and there's a search mode to search a sorted list from top to bottom or bottom to top. We'll be working with the first two of these optional values. So let's give XLOOKUP a try. Over here we have a list of all of the products that our firm sells. For each item, I have a part number, description, and price. And I'd like to enter a part number under the part number heading in column A, and I would like to automatically see the description and price show up in column C and in column D. So by entering WJ001 in A5, I want to see coin cell pennant in C5 and $15 show up in D5. And I'm noticing A5 is bold, so just to make sure that I don't have any bold cells, I'm going to highlight this area that I'm going to work with, and I'll make sure that bold is turned off by clicking B on the Home tab until it's no longer highlighted. Now let's enter our lookup formula in C5, and we're going to use the XLOOKUP function. Now we could simply type equals XLOOKUP, and if I highlight XLOOKUP in this drop-down list and press tab, I can see XLOOKUP is in my formula bar, and I get a list of attributes or inputs in this function just below it. And when you see a function shown like this, any of the inputs that are in square brackets are optional, so these last three inputs aren't required. But there's an even friendlier way for us to enter a function, and I'd recommend using this friendlier way I'm about to show you, at least until you're starting to feel like an XLOOKUP pro, because XLOOKUP is a pretty complicated function, and it's easy to make a typing error. So in order to show you this friendly method, I'm going to escape out of the current entry in this cell, but with C5 still selected, I'm going to click on the Formulas tab, and Excel has a bunch of icons for various formula categories. And if you click one of these categories, it'll expose a list of all the formulas for that category. Now, XLOOKUP is classified as a lookup and reference function, so let's click that, and sure enough, organized alphabetically toward the bottom, we see XLOOKUP. So let's select XLOOKUP, and here's where things get super handy. Excel has opened up a formula builder over on the right-hand side of my screen, and I see a field for each of the inputs for this function. So I can enter values directly into these boxes in the formula builder, and Excel will use these values to build out our function in the formula bar. By the way, you don't need to go to the Formulas tab and make a selection to see the formula builder. It's accessible once you start to enter any function, and Excel recognizes that function in the formula bar. Let me show you how that works. So just press the X in the upper right-hand corner of the formula builder to temporarily get rid of the formula builder. And then if I start to type in my XLOOKUP formula in the formula bar as equals XLOOKUP, once that's the only option that shows up, I can press Tab, and Excel completes the entry for me, and it adds the open parenthesis. And at this point, Excel knows that I'm working with this function. I can see it's listed in all uppercase. So if I click on the FX symbol in the formula bar, this also brings up the formula builder. And this is great because you can use this as a form of help. If you forget the various inputs for a function, just select the FX symbol, and not only do you get a list of the different inputs, but down below those inputs, Excel offers some descriptive help as well. Now let's use the formula builder to build this function. With my cursor in the field named lookup value, I'm going to click on cell A5. Now that's going to be the one where the part number is, and that's what I'm going to look up. Now where am I going to look that up? Well, that's what I put in this next field, lookup array. And I'll highlight all of my part numbers in the products list by selecting the range G3 through G10. And now that I've got my lookup value in my lookup array, what do I return? Well, that goes in the next field. That's the return array, and that should be the range H3 through H10. These other fields aren't required, and we won't use them for now. So let's press the done button, and hey, will you look at that? Coin cell pennant magically shows up in cell C5, and we got this by using XLOOKUP on the value WJ001, that's an A5, finding that value in our lookup array, and returning the value in the same vertical position in our return array. Nice! Now I want this same functionality in the description cells through C9, so you might be tempted to click on the fill handle in C5 and drag down through C9, but look what happens when I do this. First, we're getting a bunch of 0 values. That's kind of weird. So let's enter a value in A6 and see what shows up. So how about WT001? That should return Bluetooth tie, but it shows #N/A. What's up with that? Well, if we double click back in C6, I see the formula highlighting for this cell, and oh yeah, I can see that the lookup range and the return range were shifted down as relative references. Not what I want. And you can see that the lookup range no longer has a value for WT001, and if I escape out of the formula bar, that's why I see #N/A. That's Excel's not available error, meaning that there's no WT001 in my lookup range, and you should know how to fix this. So let's fix this formula by heading back to C5 and clicking in the formula bar, and I don't want the rows in my lookup array or my return array to shift, so I want $signs in front of those rows. And so I'm going to change the addressing in the lookup array and the return array at the same time by highlighting both of those parameters in the formula bar. So I've clicked and highlighted the range G3, G10, and also H3, H10. Then I'm going to press on Command-T on the Mac or F4 in Windows until I toggle through and get a mixed reference with $signs in front of the numbers, but not the letters. See how the values that I've highlighted all change when I toggle? Then I can press return or click on the done button. And then when I click back on the C5 fill handle and drag my corrected formula down through C9, I'm getting the results I want. So here's a challenge for you. Now that you know how to set up XLOOKUP, why don't you try to see if you can write an XLOOKUP function in D5 that will show the price for the part number entered in A5. Now make sure that you're using the right referencing and then copy the correct formula down through D9. So why don't you pause, give that a shot, and let's see how you did. Now, if you got that right, great, but I'm going to first show you a mistake, and you're welcome to repeat the mistake along with me if you'd like. That might help your understanding, and if you follow along, we're going to correct the mistake in the end so you'll end up with something that works. Now, first, I'm going to click and drag the fill handle from C5 over to D5, and I don't get what I want. I'm seeing that not available error again, #N/A. So let's double-click right in D5 to highlight the cells in the function and see what's going on. And oh yeah, everything shifted to the right because our column values weren't locked down with a $sign. What we wanted to be happening here was we wanted the lookup value to remain in A5 and the lookup array to remain G3 through G10. So let's fix that. We can click over here in the formula builder and set the lookup value to A5, then set the lookup array to G3 through G10. And the return array is where we want it since we want to return the price. But let's highlight the lookup array and change this to a mixed reference with the $signs in front of the row numbers. And now we can press return. And we get the price we were expecting in D5, that's $15. It's now formatted in dollars, so let's click back in D5. We'll head over to the home ribbon. We'll click the $sign, that's much better. And if we click on the fill handle in D5 and drag down through D9, the formula's working. We see the right price show up for Bluetooth tie, that's $65, nice. And I see for some reason my part numbers are still showing up in bold, so I'm just going to highlight from C6 through C9 and make sure that I've turned off bold. And I'm going to verify this is working by putting in another value in A7. I'll put in LD001. That returns 32 by 32 LED sign. That's $35. It's getting that from my products list. Perfect. Now we see if our XLOOKUP results can't find the lookup value in the lookup array, Excel shows the #n/a as the not available error. Now that's not the friendliest error, but Excel gives us an optional parameter in the XLOOKUP function so that we can add our own error message or even a formula to use if the lookup value isn't found. So let's use that now. We'll click back in cell C5, and we can see over in the formula builder, we've got a field for if not found. Now this is where we can enter either text for the error message, or as I said, a formula that could come up with a specific value. Either way, Excel will use our input here if a not found error occurs. To keep things simple, I'm just going to put in the error message, no such part number. I'll press return. Excel needs double quotes around any text in this field, so it added those automatically when I pressed return. Thank you, Excel. And I can drag the C5 fill handle down through C9, and we see the #n/a errors are replaced by my custom if not found value. Nice. Now what if we wanted the field to be blank? Well, we can return to the formula in C5, and to get a blank to show up as the error, just put in 2 double quotes, one after the other, in our if not found field. Now we refer to the 2 double quotes with nothing in between as an empty string. String is the computer term for a block of text. The double quote says that this is a string, but there's nothing inside, it's an empty string. Now when we press return and we drag the C5 fill handle through C9, we don't see any error for our empty values, we just don't see any value in there at all. And I think that's a better user interface for our point of sale system, because we really shouldn't show an error if the user simply hasn't entered a value into this field. Someone might simply be ordering only 1 or 2 types of items, and there's no reason to report an error if that happens. Now it's not just text that you can report as an if not found error, you can also use numbers. So let's click in D5 and we'll change the if not found field to a number. I'll just type a 0 in here, make sure it's a 0 and not the letter O. And when we press return, we see that Excel does not put double quotes around the number. Numbers don't need double quotes, only strings. And since this value is a number, it will be treated as a number and apply any numeric formatting. And we'll see this when we drag D5's fill handle down through D9. The default accounting format doesn't show zeros, it just shows a $sign and a dash, but that's exactly what we get with 0 values in these cells, so this is working great. But I actually prefer that these cells are empty, and we're going to end up with empty values in here when I show you the next technique. First, just to double check everything's working, if we click back in A7, we backspace over this value, the description goes away, and the price shows $dash. Well, entering a formula in D5 worked great, but I'm going to show you that we didn't even need that formula. It's possible for us to specify a range as the return array. So we'll do that in the XLOOKUP formula in C5. So we'll use a 2-column range to populate the cells C5 and D5 at once, and that'll allow us to get rid of the formula in D5. Let me show you how. First, press escape so that we're no longer in the formula bar. Then let's clear out the formula from D5 through D9. So with that range highlighted, we're going to click on the eraser pull down for clear options and select clear contents. Now we've got no formula in the D column cells, but that's okay. Let's click back in C5. Our return array is currently H3 through H10. By the way, you can highlight it in the field in the formula builder or in the formula bar as I'm doing here. And I'm going to replace this with the range by clicking and dragging from H3 through I10. Now that's 2 columns to reference to find the return value, not just one. Don't forget to set this array to a mixed reference. So I'm going to highlight H3:I10 in the formula bar and press either Command T on the Mac or F4 on Windows until I've got $signs in front of the row numbers. That's the mixed reference I want. Then we can click on the Done button in the formula builder or press return, and will you look at that? We get $15 in D5. That's the exact dollar amount for the coin cell pendant, even though we don't have any formula in D5. Now if we look in the name box, we see that we're in cell C5. That cell is highlighted on our worksheet, and we also see some extra blue highlighting around cell D5. That indicates that we have a spillover result from the formula in C5 spilling into D5. Now Excel's behavior can be just a little bit tricky because if we click into cell D5, it looks like Excel is showing a formula for this cell. We see something in the formula bar, but what Excel does is it actually shows the formula that's being used to spill into this cell, and if we click back in the formula bar while we're in D5, we actually don't see anything in the formula bar, and that's because there's no formula in D5. So just be aware of this quirkiness. If we press escape and we click back in C5, we see our original formula with the 2-column range for our return array, and that produces the spillover value that fills in D5. Now one more thing to notice, the if not found value for this formula is the empty string, and that's going to spill over into D5 as well. So press the escape key to get out of the formula bar, then click the fill handle in C5 and drag through C9, and the part number for A6 gives us Bluetooth tie in C6 as well as $65 in D6. And then all the values below those in the C and D columns are blanks. That's because we don't have any part number in A7 through A9, and we've put an empty string in our if not found field. Nice! We can double check to make sure things are working. In A7, I'll put in the part number LD001, and sure enough, I get my 32 by 32 LED sign that costs $35. Excellent. Next thing we want to do is to enter a formula in the E column that will calculate the total value for each item purchased by using the quantity purchased and the item price. I'll enter some values to start off this calculation. So we'll say we bought 3 coin cell pendants, 1 Bluetooth tie, and 1 32 by 32 LED sign. So quick challenge for you, enter the formula to calculate the totals in E5 through E9, then use these values to calculate the order subtotal in E11. They should be super easy, the kind of formulas you learned in our first lesson. So pause. Give that a shot, resume, and hopefully this is what you did. In E5, you should have entered equal B5 times D5. The referencing can remain the same, so we can use the fill handle in E5 and drag that through E9. Then we can click in E11 to enter our subtotal, and for that, I'll just click on the auto sum button in the home ribbon, but I'll reset the range by clicking from E5 and dragging through E9. Then I'll press return, and our item totals and our subtotal are looking good. Next up, we need to calculate our discount value. Now, in our store, the customer gets a progressively higher discount value if they buy more stuff. So we see in the discount table in the lower right, the first discount starts at or above $100. Buy that much and you get a 5% discount. Buy $150 or more and you get a 10% discount. $200 or more and you get a 15% discount. $250 or more and you get a 20% discount. Now we can still use XLOOKUP for this, but it won't work unless we modify how XLOOKUP behaves when it can't find a match. Now by default, Excel uses an exact match lookup, and if it doesn't find what it wants, it'll report an error. So let's first show this behavior, and then we'll show you how to change it. So we'll start off by entering a formula in E12 next to discount, and for now, we'll just try to show the discount percentage that we'll use based on the subtotal that we have in E11. Now this first attempt isn't going to work. With E11 selected, we'll head to the Formula tab, we'll click Lookup and Reference, and we'll select XLOOKUP. Then in the Formula Builder on the right, we'll set the lookup value to cell E11, that's our subtotal, and the lookup array we'll set to G15 through G18, that's these dollar values here. And for the return array, we want to return the percentage value, that's in the range H15 through H18. And look what happens when we click on the Done button. We get a not available error. Now why is that? XLOOKUP is performing its default exact match, and it doesn't see an exact match for our subtotal value of 145. That's the value in our lookup value cell E11. See what we have here in the lookup array? We've got a $100 value, we've got a $150 value, but we don't have a $145 value. So since Excel can't find that, it returns the value not available error, #n/A. Now we'll fix this by adding a match mode parameter to our XLOOKUP function. Now the match mode for XLOOKUP is the 5th parameter that we see here in the formula builder, and we set XLOOKUP's match mode by using a special code number. Now rather than memorizing these codes, let's have Excel tell us what those codes are. And to do that, we're going to ignore the formula builder for now, and we'll head up to the formula bar. Now I'm going to click just before the closing parenthesis in my XLOOKUP function. Now Excel then shows me the different inputs that I can use for XLOOKUP in a tooltip just below the formula bar. And the value for return array is bold inside of the tooltip, and that's because this is the last value in my formula and my cursor is right next to this value. Now if I type a comma, Excel bolds if not found in the tooltip. Now this value has square brackets around it. That's Excel's way of telling me that this is an optional value, and we're actually not going to put anything in the if not found value for now, but I want to get to the next input, which is match mode. Now to do this, I'll enter a second comma. I can see match mode is highlighted in the tooltip, but even better, I get this super useful drop-down menu that shows me the numeric codes that I can use to switch the match modes. Now 0 is exact match, and since that's my default, we'll never really use that because if we need an exact match, we can just leave this empty and we'll get the exact match. But the one that I want is -1. That's exact match or next smaller item. So for the value that we got, $145, since we can't find an exact match, it will default to the next item that's smaller than 145, and in our table, that value is $100. And what's great is with XLOOKUP, the table doesn't even need to be sorted. XLOOKUP can take a look at an unsorted range and figure out what the next smaller value is. Now, if you wanted to go the other way and move to the next higher value, you could enter a 1 instead of a -1. There's also a value 2 in here for wildcard characters. You can use those in a search if you want to search for a text value that might contain a set of characters that might be inside of the different values that you're searching, but we won't be using that in our lesson. So with my cursor highlighting -1, the exact or next smaller item, I'm going to press Tab. That accepts accepts this value, it enters a -1 into my formula. Now you could have just typed -1 into your match mode if you'd memorized that -1 was the value that you needed, but when you're starting out, it's really handy to have Excel offer you help like this. And since I'm done, I can click on Done in the Formula Builder or press Return, and hey, I see 0.05 show up, which is, remember, the same as 5%. We just didn't format this cell as a percentage, but using XLOOKUP with -1 as its match mode gives us exactly what we wanted. Nice! Now this is working pretty good, but we'll also notice that the table doesn't have a value to use if we have a subtotal that's less than $100. So let's see what happens if that occurs. Why don't we delete the two values that we've entered in A7 and A6, and we can delete the quantities too, and we see the discount value in E12 now shows a $n/A. That's the not available error, and that's because there's no match value for the exact match or the next smaller value for anything less than $100. Now you can probably figure out how to change this. One way we can do this is to return to the cell in E12. We can click on the formula bar, then head over to the formula builder and enter 0 as our if not found error. Then we'll press the done button, or you can press return in the formula bar, and now we're correctly showing the value of 0 in cell E12. So that's one way. Now let's demonstrate the other way, and to do this, first I'm going to undo the change that I just made, so that's Command Z on the Mac, Control Z on Windows. And the other way is to simply add a row to our discount table that has a value for $0 at a 0 discount, and then modify our lookup on our return arrays to include this row. So to do this, I'm going to highlight G15 and H15, that's the first row on our discount list, and I'll right-click to bring up the context-sensitive menu. Then I'll select Insert, and I'll select to shift the cells down and click OK. Then I'll enter 0 in 0 in G15 and G16. Now I don't have the right formatting in these cells, but I'll fix that with the Format Painter. I'm going to highlight the two cells below these, then head over to the Home ribbon, click the Format Painter, and then select G15 and H15, Format Fixed. And now if I click back on E12, that's where our discount cell formula is. Then I'll click in the formula bar, and I see that Excel highlights all of the cells that are used in this formula, and I can see the current ranges don't include the row that I just added. But I can fix this pretty easily. I could either replace the ranges in the formula builder fields, or instead I can actually stretch out the ranges directly on my worksheet by moving my cursor over to the top edge of any range until I see a black box with the arrows in the upper right and lower left-hand corner. This says that I can click and drag to reset my range, so I'll do that. So here I am. I'm at the top of my lookup array. That's this red range selection. I'll drag it up one, let go. I've reset the range, and then I'll do the same with the return array. That's this purple array right over on the right. And then if I click on Done in the formula builder, even though I don't have an if not found value, I've got a row that can return a 0 value for any value from $0 up to but not including $100. Now if our quantity ordered here is 6, we didn't buy enough for a discount, but if we change that quantity to 7, we get the discount. Now in E12, we don't want to show a discount percentage. We want to multiply this percentage by our subtotal and then show the total dollar amount for our discount. So I'll click in E12, and then right after the XLOOKUP function, I'll multiply this value with an asterisk and then click in E11, press return, and we see we're now calculating the appropriate discount for the discount percentage and the subtotal amount. In my example, it's $5.25. Now we can make sure things are working properly by entering another item in A6. I'll enter WS001, that's the Bluetooth scarf, at $65. I'll buy one of these, and my subtotal is $170. That puts my discount at 10%, and I've got a discount of $17. And for some reason, the A column keeps formatting as bold. Maybe my version of Excel has a bug in it. I'll just highlight A6 through A9 and Command B to toggle the bold off. That's Control B on Windows. And now I'll calculate the total in cell E19 with an equal sign, E11 minus E12. I'll press return, and my total is $153. This works great. And with that, we finished part 1 of our point of sale lesson. We learned to work with the formula builder. We used XLOOKUP, where we worked with match modes, exact match, and exact or next smaller item. We used the if not found parameter to report values if we don't find a matching result. We used a spill range. And if I tally up your skills, I'd total up to impressed. Now get ready for the next video lesson where we'll build on what we've done here while we learn data validation techniques. Stay excellent!